All right, there we go. That's the right button.
It's Monday. Well, Tuesday.
It's our Monday.
Morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the Sun Dragon Sideshow.
The Adventures of Liz and Rebecca. That's Rebecca. She is the boss and owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in foggy 60-something downtown Brevard, North Carolina.
Liz is taking over and helping us get going today because I'm running a little slow. That's Liz. She is the assistant at Sun Dragon. Minion.
I don't do. Assistant and employee say there's way more responsibility than I want toward me. Like, I should not be in charge.
I just accidentally coughed into my hands. So in case we touch each other's knitting this morning, this is better than nothing. So yeah, because, you know, I went, ooh, I went.
And then she inhales hand sanitizer.
Wasn't intending to cough into my hands. So I'm going to work that in a little more since I have coughed on my hands again. Maybe I'll use that again later. We have a lot of it in the shop. Thank you very much. All right. Oh, as I touch my face. Oh, it's a Monday.
You just can't win this morning.
I really can't. Nope. It's a Monday. I'm tired.
So
okay. It's been a weekend. Let me tell you. I had to take my cat to the vet at the end of the day yesterday because he's just acting funky. And hopefully good news if we can get it all straightened out after lots of tests and poking and prodding is he might be constipated.
Which means drink more water and eat wet prescription cat food that he doesn't like.
He's a picky cat. So I gave him food and he's like, what is this? So we'll see. The last thing that the assistant said to me today was one thing I could try, because I got a pet fountain. I've done like everything I can. He said sometimes they're social drinkers. so maybe hang out by his pet fountain with him. So knit nighters, you might see me hanging out with his pet fountain on the floor. We'll see. Yeah, he's having.
Sometimes they're social drinkers.
I didn't even hear what you said.
I said sometimes they're social drinkers. Like, invite all your cat friends over for a drink, like,
right?
You know, yeah.
I don't know how social my cat is. He goes through love and hate moments with me, but he was snuggling against me last night and before I went to work today. I don't think he wanted me to leave, so I'm dealing with a little bit of guilt today, but we'll see how he is when I go home. So if you want to see how he was this morning, check out my Instagram and Facebook, both stories, and post about knit night, because he was all like next to me, looking really cute. So anyway, enough about my cat. Although, you know, he's kind of the mascot of the shop in some ways. He's the home mascot. We have Sunny here, who's the dragon shop, I made, who's the shop mascot. Because
I did mention if he was sleeping in the carrier, he could come to the shop today.
When I woke up this morning,
wouldn't end in sadness.
He was not on the bed. And I hunted around the house for him, and I found him in the cat carrier. And I'm like, why is he sleeping in the cat carrier? Because that's the thing I took him to the vet in, and he meowed the whole time. Does that mean he needs to go back because he's not feeling? Is he trying to tell me something? But he got out of it and stuff. But she was like, well, he was in the carrier. You could just bring him to the shop.
Then he could hunt two people.
Oh, it would be so bad.
And skirts.
And he'd probably get out, and that would no.
Yeah.
And then be terrified, and then Broad Street, no.
Yeah.
Anyway. So have you liked our little side stories that I promised I'd never do on the show? But he is the home shop mascot. So I feel like it's knitting adjacent. It really is. Because I brought my knitting with me to the vet, but I was too stressed to knit most of the time. Because you have to wait in your car. You know. Well, and then talk to them through the window. And And when before they took the x-rays, when I said, oh, I'll just wait for the results, I'll go knit. She's like, you have yarn in the house. Because they're trying to figure out if he had an obstruction or swallowed something. Plants, toys. He had eaten some toy and it had come back up. Trying not to be too gross on camera. But nothing was in his tummy when they took the x-rays. But she's like, you have yarn in the house? And I'm like,
doesn't have yarn in the house?
I run the yarn shop downtown, so yes, there is yarn around. But he usually, only every once in a while, does he even attempt to try to eat strings of yarn. Usually he doesn't. Anyway, so we think he's okay. If anyone has any tips about how to help him, encourage him to drink water, I'm all ears. We've gotten advice before on how to clip his toenails when I say that he scratches me all the time, his claws. And that kind of advice I can't take because it's have my husband-like person at home hold him.
That will end in sadness.
No. Brian was like, well, if you need to wait on the x-rays and see how he does, then I could take him in today. And I was like, no, you can't.
That would end in sadness.
That means you putting him in the cat carrier, and he'll barely let me put him in the cat carrier. Anyway, yeah, I could go on for the whole time, and that would just be only entertaining for cat people. So, no. So we hope, positive vibes for Avi because he's by himself and probably just mopey. That didn't go well. Liz was trying to be discreet. That was funny. I'm going to start pulling out some of my weekend knitting.
Some of your stuff.
Yeah, usually we start with you, but we'll start with me by default. Okay. Oh, this is not zipped up right now, so I can take this out. I decided I should get back to my planter pullover, which is stranded color work. And I'm currently...
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
She didn't see this in person yet.
In person is always so much cooler than on camera.
I know. I wish.
We wish.
So this is the planter pullover, which is stranded color work. It's technically the same thickness as the sweater I'm wearing. It's written for chunky weight. It's written for a main color, which is my brown, and a contrast color, which I'm choosing to do a whole fall array, which was mostly Liz's idea.
I organized and threw in.
She organized. She's my color guru. So I will hold it close. What we decided.
You picked out all the colors but the blue.
Yeah, and then you threw the bluey teal, which will always look blue on camera. It's more teal. But anytime there was a straight line of color, she said, ooh, use that as your lines and then every time change through the fall palette that I picked out. So we got green and yellow and orange, and now I'm in the red. And the red's gonna make like kind of an arrow pattern. You can just see, I'm just starting to go back in the opposite direction if you look over here. So this has been an adventure, I will tell you, because the sisa that I'm using is, almost can't even see it on camera. It's a chainette, and it looks worsted weight. It looks thin. But according to the new trends in yarn, they have marked it as a 5, as a bulky. And part of that is because it's a chainette, which will kind of fluff and fill the space. So they want you to knit it on a bigger needle. I want to say that here's the next skein I'm going to have to use. Unwound. Thank you very much. So proof that they call it a 5. And they want you to knit this. Excuse me while I struggle to look at this. 10 to 10.5 US needles, which we're talking a 6 millimeter to a 6.5 millimeter.
Okay.
I'm knitting it on an 11. And shout out to Jan from the UK. She's like, she saw me doing this in a morning meditation video and was like, those needles are huge. I've knit with huger. But she said she's used to a 2.5 millimeter.
Ooh.
So these are huge.
Sorry, Jan. But they
everybody has their thing they like. and small needles are not Liz's thing, as we all know. So because this is kind of a fluffs up and not a twisted, thick, chunky, not super bulky. Sorry, I'm a little out of it. I've had a rough 24 hours. Because it's not like a spun, chunky / bulky yarn. Getting gauge on this project was a little challenging. Like, I'm fully prepared to make kits that look just as beautiful as this. However, my challenge on this is I could not get gauge. I could not get my stitches to be big enough. It's written for like a size 10 needle with a bulky yarn. But even on an 11, I'm still smaller. My stitches are still smaller, which means more of them fit into that 4-inch space than it are supposed to. And what? I heard a breath.
Oh, I have a shawl. One of my mini projects is out of the Sisa, and it's an interesting yarn to work with. Like, I like it, but it has a lot of spring, so tension and, like, you know, how you hold your tension and everything.
But yeah.
It's a fun yarn.
Yeah,
I like how it knits up. I like everything, but it's interesting to get tension and gauge, and, you know.
So I had to do some magic math, some gauge math on this, and I should make the size 5 to fit me, but I'm following the instructions for the size 7, which is a bigger size because my stitches are smaller. And it should work out, but I struggle with making kits for this because that's not something everyone wants to engage in. Because the next needle, I could have gone the next needle up and tried again for gauge, but that's jumping to a 13 at that point, and that's going a whole millimeter, right? It's going from a 7 to an 8, and
from an 8.
I don't know, is it 11 and 8?
Oh.
We don't know.
11's an 8, a 13's a 9.
Oh, so it's getting huge. And so yeah. So yeah, I struggle with that. I'm getting distracted because someone was calling and almost leaving a message, and I was listening to myself talk in the answering machine. That always just throws me off. Anyway, so hopefully they got the information from that message that they can come by at 10. And then we will help them. So anyway, who else is having a Monday on a Tuesday like me? So no, but I'm really excited that once I get through the color work, then I get to take the sleeves off and work on the torso, which is kind of the more boring part, but at the same time, it's more the movie knitting, just knit, 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 knit. Also on this pattern, she recommends going up a needle size for the color work. And because that would mean jumping from an 11 to 13, I have done all the color work on the 11, and I've just been consciously not pulling as much as possible. And I think it's working out well. Like, I like how it looks. Now, how it fits is something else. And how it fits is something I won't really be able to, I mean, I could put it, what I would do right now to see if this fits, because this question has come up on Knit and Chat and other places. It's what I did with the next sweater I could show you, which is, once the sleeves were off, is a little bit better of a gauge. The torso, I would put on 2 needles. I'd slide like half the stitches onto another long needle so things could stretch without popping off the needle. And then I'd put it on. It's a great thing about top-down sweaters. It's what I did.
She tried on her.
I tried on my calliope with some friends on Sunday on Zoom. I'm not going over to friends' houses to knit. Sidebar. I hadn't showed you this, but there was a comment on Knit and Chat of someone saying, I went and spent a lot of money at my local yarn shop, and then when I asked them to wind it, they said I'd have to come back. Like, they didn't say they wouldn't wind it, but they said we can't do it right now. And she was very upset because she spent a lot of money. And we have our own opinions on it. But that's what we do too. If we're busy, if there's a lot going on, we say, we'd love to, you got to come back. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up, there are all kinds of reactions to this. But the reason I'm bringing it up in conjunction with the hanging out with friends on Zoom is one person said, sit and wait, get out your knitting and sit and wait for them to wind it. And I'm like, that's not happening at this shop.
You could sit and wait outside.
Yes, you could wait outside. But everyone's got different levels of protection right now. And ours are pretty, we had someone last week say ours are the highest they've seen. And you know what, even if though it's a struggle, we're going to try to keep those in place. So I'm sorry, what were you going to
say? With the winding, if you do an inside appointment, we will wind it while you wait outside.
If we have the time.
If you're buying a sweater quantity of yarn, we could wind one or two while you wait, but it would be really nice for you to come back and pick up your yarn, just because like life is crazy for every yarn shop. It's not just,
and you don't know, even if you don't see people shopping or outside, you don't actually, that is not an indication of how busy we are. We started an online shop. We've got other things going
Saturday we had Saturday? Not Saturday.
We're not here on the weekends. Sorry for people who can only shop on
Thursday. Thursday we had like 5 orders to get ready to mail. And
sometimes there's pickups.
Yeah, it's a lot going on. So, be gracious to your yarn shop, because they're trying as much as they can.
We're doing our best to be gracious to you. We really are, even if it may not look like it. Public service announcement number 1. How many of these will we do today? Let's keep track. You keep track at home and tell us. So, yes, getting back to this. No, there were comments on this from "that's awful customer service, I would never shop there again," to just what we're saying. Like, maybe they were busy, or here's what happens at my yarn shop. There were quite a few yarn shops or people that say at their yarn shop, they just say, go use the winder yourself. And that's a little terrifying to us. You saw the look. He was like,
I'm very protective of my winder, even when Rebecca's
and
like,
it's
my shop, it's my winder, I can wind yarn. And
it's not my winder at all. No, so this is public service announcement number 2. We love that you want to wind your own yarn, but even before the pandemic started, no. We know how it works. If you want to buy your own equipment to wind stuff at home, we will train you and help you out with that. Absolutely. Give you all the pointers we can. But we know how to make this work the most effectively. So even it still be, even if we had people in the shop, it behooves you to come back, or go get lunch and come back or something, so we can help other customers and then get your yarn wound as effectively as possible. Anyway, so another subject we could talk all day about, and we probably will once we turn off filming. So this is my Calliope Sparkly. Isn't this great? You can't see the sparkle from where you are right now because it's black. But what I want to show from far away, I don't have this on the 2 needles to try it on for you. Maybe another day. We'll see. I have taken the sleeves off. The reason you see so many silver things hanging down from this is I have one sleeve on a circular needle, one sleeve on a circular needle, and I'm knitting around the torso. But this meant I could put the torso on 2 long needles and try it on Zoom and go, what do you think? And it was like, it's like a halter top that comes down to just below the girdles right now. It's like, bless you. I know there's one more. Another one? Yep. But I could still tell that it was not going to be too small. That's the biggest thing for me. This is supposed to have a lot of positive ease in it.
And you were slightly
look, you can see the sparkle
before you tried it on, or before you separated for the sleeves.
I was, because let me show you again. The ribbing up here. I follow the directions. I'm pretty sure I followed the directions right for the ribbing, because I wouldn't have enough increases if I hadn't for that section. But on the Espace pattern, the ribbing goes out to like the shoulder. It's like, whoa. And this one didn't look that big. Like, the ribbing stops right here on this black piece that from this far back you can't see any detail on camera. And so I was a little concerned about that. But I think that's for a smaller size. And I think they have the ribbing taking on different lengths, like as it gets bigger, but not necessarily completely proportional. It's got a lot of the raglan sleeve increases after the ribbing to get you to your sleeves. But, and I didn't have any stitch holders at home, which, you know, everyone can look at me crazy that I didn't have stitch holders at home. I run a yarn shop. It doesn't mean I'm supplied at home. Yeah. So I have smaller needles that I had at home that are now holding my sleeves for me.
Chances are she has a lot of stitch holders. They're just in other sweaters.
Yeah, I can think of at least one. But circular, smaller circular, like smaller girth, but long length circular needles will work wonderful for holding your sleeves as the makeshift stitch holders. The danger with that is the stitch holders we carry in the shop that are like these that have a cord. I like them because Liz was like, you could use scrap yarn. And you know how I feel about scrap yarn.
I was like, I've heard scrap yarn works. Knowing that it would get a response, kind of like the eye roll she just gave me now.
Yeah. Well, because that is a low-tech hack. This is my low-tech hack, is use other needles. You can absolutely use scrap yarn. There's nothing wrong with that. My issue with that is not, I mean, it's not, I could say it's because I can't sell you stuff, but it's not really that. I don't want to upsell anybody. Like, if you want to use scrap yarn, use it. But it has no structure to it, so it's floppy and hard to manage, hard to get your stitches back on the needle when it's being held on scrap yarn. But it totally works. I like the flexible stitch holders that we sell because there's some structure to it, but there's flexibility, and it's not like the giant safety pins, which we also sell, which because they're absolutely rigid, have some downsides.
Well, they're absolutely rigid, and they're only about that wide, so you can't try on
they
your
can be
sweater.
Long. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, that's a very good.
Like point. With the and they lock in place. The stitch holders that you like have a button and a little needle, and they lock in place, so they're not gonna like.
You can pull them small,
slide out,
adjust them big,
and you can adjust them to the size of the sleeve and try it on. Kind of like
they function like these. But these needles, if I stretch too far, the stitches could pop off because they don't lock in place. I could get stitch stoppers. There's all many levels of things I could do, and I haven't. So FYI. No, but I'm super excited. This is at the point where I'm just gonna knit until it gets long enough, and then I'll go work on the sleeves. So, getting all my sweaters to the point where I can mindlessly knit, which will potentially make my morning meditations a little boring moving forward. If I'm at the point in most of my knitting where I'm only knitting and not showing off fun stitches, but you know, I'm trying to believe Liz when she says people just want to watch me knit. We'll see.
People do just want to watch you
knit. We'll see. Why don't we move to a couple of your things before we go back to the myriad. I don't have as many things to show you as last Tuesday. I don't think. I don't want to run out of time for Liz.
I touched
what was that
2 knitting projects this week.
You were doing other stuff. We have already talked about that.
Yesterday I finished plying the last 450 yards of hand spun. So now I have like 860 yards of hand spun, and went, what could I make with this?
See, it's a lot, but it's not sweater quantity.
Actually.
Oh, never mind. I've been corrected.
I could do a ranunculus out of it. Even long sleeve. Yeah, was thinking about that. I don't know. I'm probably just going to do a big drapey shawl thing because, you know, I don't know. Anyway, so I have like, because I plied until it dropped off, or, you know, some of my yarn didn't, but
it just didn't.
It just didn't.
I don't spin, so I don't understand any of this. I vicariously enjoy it.
Since I got the Nano, I machine spin my singles and then hand ply them on a drop spindle. And so I have like 18 skeins. Some are like a yard in circumference, and some are like 2 yards, and some are a yard and a half. And so it's like this wall of skeins that I have to go and twist tonight.
We were talking with Carol, and I'm like, it's art yarn. He's like, no. And I'm like, but
it is art.
That's like saying design element. It's a catch-all.
It's a thick, thin. It's art yarn. It's not the art yarn with the locks or the coarse spun. It's art yarn. Love it. It's great. But there are some bits of yarn that didn't. And
it just didn't.
That just didn't. And so yeah, and I realized yesterday that I'm kind of done spinning for a little bit. I was like,
you maxed out on something? What?
Kind of like OD'd.
That makes me think of like opening the pack of Oreos because you haven't had Oreos in forever, and you just eat the whole package, and then you're like, I'm over Oreos for a while.
I have a bowl of yarn that I could probably spin on tonight, but I'm like, I think I'm gonna pull a piece of knitting out of my bag because this isn't so much fun anymore. And I kind of OD'd. Like,
it happens.
I've only been spinning for like 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks with my machine thing, and I'm like, yeah, okay.
I'm a really big fan of the everything in moderation theory because I see stuff like this. Me too. Like, there's things I'm working on. I'm like, woo.
Well, I finished my morning yarn. I still have to finish my thistle yarn, which means making rolags. So I go back to my blending board for like a week and a half, and then I have my dark and moody yarn I want to make, and then Christmas yarn I want to make.
You're still going to be making yarn.
I'm still going to be making yarn, just probably not 24 hours a day. Like, it's like, ooh,
sleep. Who needs that?
I got a spinning wheel.
Yeah.
So I picked up knitting last night.
Yes.
And I was 4 rows or 4.
Speaking of sweaters,
4 back and forths on my sweater that's all garter, and I can't even remember the name of it.
Back and forth, is it short rows?
No. It's the increase. It's a raglan, but you knit across one row, and then you do your raglan increases on the next row because it's garter.
I may have mentioned it in another one of our episodes, but is this the one that's gonna do the double-breasted wraparound?
Yes.
Funky, cool, awesome.
Yes.
Oh, while she's looking for that, I should mention, I realized part of the reason I stopped on this is I have finally gotten through one whole skein of, like, down there is let's see if I can move it where maybe.
Oh, I see it.
I just finished up my first skein.
Right there.
Mohair sticky, yeah. Of the fingering weight yarn that's being held with the mohair. So this is how far one skein of fingering weight got me. It got me just past my armpits, and I think I've knit maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches under the armpits on the torso. It's pretty good, right? So I think it's only supposed to take my size like 3 skeins of fingering weight. I'm already almost through. This is how much I have left of my second ball of mohair. So Liz's rough estimation of about 2 balls of 25 gram mohair to 100 gram ball of fingering weight. It's holding pretty steady. So yeah. All right.
It's the shift of focus.
Shift of focus. I will try to put that in the description.
Just a disclaimer, it is written for DK, I want to say, on size 6.
And you're doing it.
And I'm doing it in chunky on size 9. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot of math involved.
There was some gauge math involved in that too.
Yeah. So sport weight and size 6. It's a fantastic.
Several weights away from where she's working.
Several weights away.
But this is a grand experiment to see if it works. I always tell people if we have to do gauge math on a sweater, especially, because for shawls, yeah, who cares? Well, within reason. So when we do gauge math, it's not magical science. It's a little more of a sciencey art.
Well, so for me, it works well because generally it comes out a little bit bigger than what it's supposed to. And I love positivity.
She loves,
like, not the little, 2 to 4 inches of positive E's that most people are like, that's about all the positive E's I want. No, I like
roomy
10
Yay.
inches of positive E's. So after I finish this, I get to take off my sleeves, this row. So I'm done with the bodice of the sweater. I also started another project.
She started a project with yarn that she made herself. I think this is so cool.
So this is spun, or this is it caked up.
Yeah, she made that.
I made that.
We can't sell that in the shop. It's something she made.
It actually yarned. It did. Yeah. So there a lady came in wanting to do a blanket, and I'm
sorry, Brian left the house at 4:30 this morning. I'm yawning.
That is quite acceptable.
It's not because she's boring. This is fascinating. I love it. I just can't help myself.
The blanket was ridged on one side, had color stripes going up that were ridges, and on the back side it almost looked completely the same color.
Or it was kind of all over busy.
Yeah.
It was
and
cool.
It was designed for a variegated, super bulky. Yeah. With a solid chunky on a size 13 needle. And it's a half brioche kind of thing. And
half brioche means that's going to show up on one side.
Well, it does have the ribs on the other, just the way they do it.
Yeah.
You can't tell. So this is I decided to make it into a scarf, and it's super easy to make into a scarf. It's the Midwest throw. It says cast on an odd number of stitches and just go. So like they recommend 90, and I was like, And I did go down my needle size because I'm using thinner yarn. So I picked like a worsted and a chunky. But this is the ridge side, and I picked white to be my ridges.
That's the brioche side. Yeah.
And that is
I think it looks
all
so cool.
Together busy. There is a brioche row on each side.
Oh.
And then it does a knit one purl one thing. So
because if everything was brioche, it would look like this. So turn around for a second. That looks like this, right? But then the flip side of this is like the reverse.
But if you see, this is if you look, it's got the brioche ridges, just it kept all the color on that side.
It's really cool.
So
doesn't do this, does its own thing.
Same texture, different look.
Kind of a ribbed look, but yeah, I think it's awesome.
So
good choice.
I'm doing wide enough I could wear it as a wrap, or a super chunky scarf. I'm gonna just go until I run out of yarn.
Yay, yarn chicken.
And then I'll just bind off in that, and life will be.
It'll be really cool. So, no, I think that's awesome, and you were agonizing over what color to use with it, and I think the natural looks really good.
It lightens it up. I just like how it it goes.
And it'll go with so much.
Yeah.
And it almost it really went with your dress last week, but you could wear it with this, which is what you're wearing today. So yay! Not that any of us have colors we wear all the time.
All the time. Yeah. It'll be a happy winter.
Yeah.
It's winter. It's dull. It needs something bright and shiny. Normally, I don't bright and shiny because
Uh-oh.
Eventually, I'll have red and black yarn to be dark and moody with, but
I might have left a project at home.
The horrors.
But we'll see. I'll pull through all my stuff. It's been hard to keep track of stuff lately. I started a lace project called the Ridgefield, I think. Richland. I keep wanting to call it Ridgefield. I don't know why. Oh. Bouncing around. I made a cowl.
She finished.
I finished the cowl. Did I show this off last week?
I think so.
I can't remember. I showed off the hat I made, which is around here somewhere. And I had so much left over that I made this cowl, and I still have yarn left over, and I think it's under my couch at home. It's not a thing. But this is the oak field. Speaking of all these things, with thicker cables and twisted ribbing in it.
It looks so fun.
And the cables are offset. So like the cable here, and then it cables over here. And I knit it this direction. So the cables were coming in as I was making them, but then you flip it around and the cables look like they're going out.
It was great fun when she went, oh my gosh, I'm doing this wrong. No, wait.
I looked at the picture and went,
it's wrong. Wait, no.
The pattern's wrong. And it says in the very beginning of the pattern, this is worked from the top down, which feels like the bottom up when you're doing it. But it has a flare of ribbing at the bottom. And this is going to get stuck on my pigtails. Oh, look, yarn I haven't woven in.
What?
But you know, put it like this. The lady in the pattern picture has folded it under, so it kind of flares out in this cute. Again, it's the Oakfield. Really, really cute. So I made this with the Rowan Felted Tweed adjacent yarn we have, which is Jody Long Alba. You get twice as much in a ball as you do with Rowan Felted Tweed because it's 100 grams instead of 50 grams. And I had enough to do a hat and a cozy, like a snug cowl, and I still had yarn left. So that's a lot of yarn. That's pretty awesome. So because I finished this and I was all proud of myself, I started another project, and that might be the one I've left at home. I'll have to dig. But it was lace work, which was linked to my tips and tricks yesterday. I talked about how to successfully do a yarn over between stitches, depending on what the stitches are, so that all you have to do is knit or purl them on the next row and not do anything like knit through the back loop or do something fancy or have to think too hard. But it brought me back to my glimmer poncho that I've been making. Look, I kept going.
You've gotten.
I've almost finished my first skein of yarn on this.
Wow.
This got me this far. What was that?
I don't know.
Something fell on the floor and rolled away. But I have both of my needle tips, so that's okay. The poncho, all stockinette over here, and this is in Get It For a Metal Tweed. So this is shiny. You can't necessarily see it on camera. I can try. Little. Tweedy flex. It's all stockinette over here, and then it's a lace work over here, which will really sing when I block it. But it's really fun because boring knitting and interesting knitting on the same row. So this I was like, I'm gonna do one more repeat of the lace work over here, and then I just kept going. Because then it became the challenge of, can I finish this? So yeah, so this is gonna be fun. I think I have to do this, I can't remember how long, but you're gonna do this for forever. And then you're gonna fold this top part and sew it, but leave an opening for your head to go through. So it'll come off and it'll be super pretty, and the lace work will wrap around the bottom. And it's a different combo of lace work than the
Richland.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That I started working on, which is a triangle shawl by Dee O'Keefe. And that was written for DK, but I'm using a much thinner yarn for it because you can change the weight of the yarn.
Is it Richland or Richmond? Oh.
Richland.
Okay.
I'm almost 100% positive on that. I'll write
now
the right
I'm
thing.
Questioning.
I had to go edit it in the comments of a post I made because I did it wrong.
She's got it.
It's buried. I got it. Ta-da. Dee O'Keefe did it in this really luscious red, like cranberry red. And I said, hold my beer. No, no, I went for an even darker, like you remember the picture?
Yeah.
Right? It's a little bit lighter than this. But I was like, ooh, in red, that could be great. We have a knitter who's doing it in cream.
She picked my favorite color.
Well, okay, this is from Hearthstone. This is out of the Hearthstone. And yeah, I'm wearing.
She hasn't gotten to play with it yet.
It needs a brighter background.
It does.
To see. So let's have the bright background of my sun dragon shirt so you can see the lace work. There we go. See, it's gonna have these pretty feathery looking parts all along one chunk of the edge of it, just like the my glimmer has something along the edge. But then it's not just stockinette. It's got some texture, but not as intense of a texture on the rest of it, which it's going to take me a little while to get to. But the Hearthstone, which is an alpaca wool blend, I think, and it's pretty much a fingering weight. They say it's a sport weight, pretty much a fingering weight. I have wanted to knit with for a really long time. Like I was going to do my Jupiter crop out of it, and then that fell apart. Well, I just switched projects.
She still hasn't Jupiter cropped yet.
Yeah, but I've picked a different yarn for that.
Yep.
I at least started a gauge swatch with that yellow yarn.
Yep.
Which is more than I could say for this. And then I was going to make my calliope out of one of these colors with some mohair. And then I'm still waiting on the mohair to come in. So I'm finally getting to work with it, and it is wonderful. Here, want to touch it?
Sure.
It's so soft. Because it's not just merino, which is its own springy softness. It's merino and alpaca.
Yeah, it's
really soft. I'm doing it on a 5 needle because the pattern called for a DK on a 6. And yeah, and I can see the little guard hairs of alpaca flying off of this. And this color really doesn't show up well. I'm sorry if I'm too near the mic. On camera, but it's like this burgundy with little flecks of deep purple in it.
It's a real pretty wine.
It's really, really pretty. So I think it's going to take 2 skeins. We're going to see. Just like I had so many shawls. I'm going to use 2 skeins, and no one's seen them again because I haven't finished them. But I finished this.
If she'd bring them in and leave them in, I guess.
That's why they travel with me everywhere. But I'm making progress on some of these. And fingers, Liz. And everything else I have in here, I don't think I've made any substantial progress on since we last talked. So I don't have to show it to you all. In fact, it might be kind of boring. That's kind of my goal, is to try to make sure my morning meditations have a little progress on them. So I'm almost prepping for them. Like this one, I was like, let me keep going. And then this was going to be a morning meditation. And then I posted this much progress online and then didn't make any more progress on it because other things took up my attention. So, keeping busy is what I do. Keeps me distracted from the craziness of life right now. So that's why I have a million projects going, to be quite honest. Is I could take this down to just a few, but A, fewer inspirational ideas for you all, and B, I would probably go nuts. So, it's like when we don't have Vikings here at the shop, I feel how tired I am. And that's not a good thing. So, although resting might also be a good thing, but who has time for that? My choir happy hour last week, they were commiserating over how they have nothing to do, or they have so much time on their hands, and I was just like,
that's the pandemic I was promised.
Yeah.
It didn't happen that way.
Yeah, and I'm not begrudging anybody that, because that is its own issue and its own problem, and I'm not.
Well, it wasn't that
we've talked about that many times.
Yeah, it wasn't that I'd have nothing to do. I have a list of things that I want to do, or that I probably should be doing.
Well, there's that too.
Like cleaning my craft room, but I haven't had time to do it because work and life and masks and so I there's always something to do.
Yeah, it's true. No, but we know we're not necessarily jealous of people who have too much time on their hands, because that's its own issue. I know.
Yeah,
that's a struggle. Everything is right now. It's basically, life is a struggle right now, and let's just kind of be there for each other, because that's what we all need right now. So so thanks for being with us right now, and come to Knit Night tonight if you'd like to at least virtually see other people. It's the best we can do right now. Find ways to be there for other people. Find the connections that you can is my big takeaway right now from everything, but that's hard right now. So just be kind to each other. You know, I know that's trite, but I'm finding I sometimes struggle with my customers when I'm really tired. Or I go into an encounter sometimes with people outside expecting the worst, and I need to shake that off, because often they've turned into just fine encounters, really good ones actually. So find the good in stuff, find the connections. That's my public service announcement. I've lost count of the day.
It's not a thing.
It's not a thing. I have my soapbox and I like it. Stop it.
I just looked at the clock and went, wow.
Wow, good or wow, bad?
It's 9 till 8 till.
I'm actually almost trying to fill time right now until it's time for Vikings, but we should probably go so we can get ready for Vikings.
Yeah.
So, we miss y'all. And we like seeing people when we can. And it's kind of that fun, like, recognize the face game when half your face is covered. But
it gets really hard when everybody has the same haircut. Yes. Or, you know.
Yeah. Before this, it was like, well, you remember the customer? She's got, you know, short white hair and glasses, and that describes about half our customers. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, it's not an identifier. And now it's like, well, the gray bob cut, you know, or it could be, it doesn't have to be gray or white. You know, we have knitters of all ages, by the way. And sometimes I can get the young ones confused too. Because it's like, well, she had her hair in a ponytail and was tall. And that describes how many of our knitters?
Another half of our knitters. Like,
right?
Every description describes half of our knitters.
And then you take away any other facial features, and oh man, yeah. So we miss y'all. We like talking to you when we can, be it virtual or in person. So, you know, bring some more people into the fold. Share this video or one of the videos that's your favorites with other customers, because we're coming up on like episode 70 of the sideshow, and we just last week we missed it until it was done. We did episode 30 of the VSC. I think we might have more mindful products coming in, but I don't know if they're going to get here before the VSC tomorrow. If they do, you will see them. There's only a couple things left.
UPS.
She gets to give grief to the UPS guy today if he comes. Anyway, we should go. No, you hang up. No.
Like us, share, ring the bell.
Subscribe, all those good things. We are
midnight for the 15th time.
We're creeping just above 400. My tips and tricks might actually catch up to us. My tips and tricks is almost at 300 right now. So, you know, challenge is on. Let's keep this growing more than my tip. I don't really care. Subscribers are great either way. So
I just finished my raglan increases. So tonight during
boring knitting. You get to go to the boring knitting part, right?
It's no, because it's all short rows. The rest of The rest of it is all short rows.
She's getting to the complicated knitting part. Okay, I gotta try to remember to put the right shift to focus. Check the link and you can see what we're talking about. Like, it looks like it goes the opposite. It looks like the bottom part comes out this way from the top part that's this way, and it's all done with short rows. And that's part of the math we were trying to figure out.
Yeah. Well,
and if it doesn't work, she's going to rip it
The very back is short rows before you get into the entire thing is garter. You don't have to pick up your wrap and turns. It's easy until you get to the sleeves. Yeah. When you might have to purl, but we're going to work past that.
One step at a time. Oh, you got to.
I have a plan.
Stay tuned to find out what Liz's plan is.
Because, no.
All right. I'm going to go turn this off now. We love you. We'll talk to you tomorrow where we try to sell you stuff. And dear Becky and Lizzy, Liz, address. Dear Becky and Lizzy on Thursday.
At Dear Becky and Lizzy, Sundragon Art and Fiber, 35 South Broad Street, Brevard, North Carolina, 28712. Or email me, liz@sundragonartandfiber.com. There. I think I got it. Maybe.
That works for me. Bye.